Hi.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good to see you. It's a pleasure to see you outside the field.
I know, isn't it funny? We're always like sucked into the facility and wearing soccer clothes. It's nice to be like normal people every once in a while. So.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Just want to say thank you for coming out, supporting the brand, obviously.
Yeah.
We chose you because we think you're like one of the embodiments of what our brand is all about, which is self-improvement and growth.
Sure.
And that lifestyle, and how can we inspire and motivate people to achieve their dreams, whether they're athletes, whether they're pursuing their professions, and obviously if we can capture just ordinary people and inspire them, and that's our main goal with Venci.
Yeah.
So let's start with a quick question.
Yeah.
Tell me a funny story about your childhood.
Interesting. Well, first of all, I think it's just amazing to see like your drive and your impetus to try to not only build something, but do it from a holistic perspective, right? Looking at things that are like not just the clothing aspect, but how do we touch people's lives and really like inspire them to pursue what they're passionate about, right? So I think that's awesome. For me, growing up in Ohio, the youngest of three, a funny story that I have, I had like a really bad like speech impediment that came out of like nowhere. So it was one of those things that was like, I probably didn't have it before this summer trip, and then I had it the whole summer trip. All my cousins were there. I couldn't pronounce the letter R to save my life. Man. And of course there's like little like ducks and ducklings, and like the want of the litter was like a big problem for me.
Right.
So the whole summer I was just getting grilled by my entire family for having this little speech impediment. And then as soon as we came back home, it was like gone. So I don't know where that came from, but it's an interesting one for me.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Might be able to crack a few
I've
jokes
worked on it. I've worked on it since then. I've really perfected my R's. So.
Okay, that's awesome though. I didn't know growing up being the youngest, you know, I'm sure your brothers picked on you and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's see. How would you describe, obviously, you're an athlete, you play professional soccer, you know, everybody outside looking in wants to be in our shoes.
Yeah.
And then they don't see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So how did you turn your dream into reality of being a professional soccer player, or what is one of the main things that stuck with you that you think is one of your skills or assets that drove you to become who you are today?
Yeah, good question. I mean, for me, man, like, and I'd be curious to hear your story too, but like growing up, I just always loved soccer. And it was something that like I naturally gravitated toward and enjoyed. And I guess it just was, you play other sports, you find little niches of things that you enjoy, and soccer was that thing for me.
Right.
And then ultimately I just kind of had a dream of like, wow, I would love to do this. Like as, not even thinking like as a professional, I just want to play soccer, right?
Right.
And then as you get older and you start to keep pursuing bigger and bigger dreams, keep pursuing growing in your craft, inevitably that dream comes closer and closer, right?
Right.
And then for me, it was really like, all right, well now it's touching distance, right? So how do I make that final little jump? And ultimately for me, it's just been about discipline and pursuing growth all the time. Always thinking, okay, what can I do to get better? How can I work harder? How can I improve upon the things that I love about the game, right? And that's served me well so far, and it's something that I really try to not only do for myself, but now that I have a son, like try to push that into him and also into my teammates.
Right. That's interesting. I kind of grew up playing football and soccer.
Okay,
so, you know, I was a little running back in the day. At some point, I had to decide between football and soccer, and obviously, I felt I was too small at that time, seeing what football does. And my mom was very happy about that with the CTE and stuff that goes on. But yeah, I just fell in love watching TV. I think one of the main things for me is like anytime I go home, I just play pickup, and you realize that anybody, no matter where they're from, who they are, can always play soccer.
It's an unspoken language, right? It's really interesting. I agree.
It brings all the people together. Doesn't matter what's going on in their lives, whatever. For that hour and a half, you're just playing with guys you don't even know, and you guys are just enjoying each other. That's one of the main motivation things for me. But I also think soccer has allowed me to grow as a person on and off the field, kind of like you're saying. I think the biggest thing for me was how can I push myself out of my comfort zone? And I try to do that every day, whether that's on the field or off the field. And obviously it goes hand in hand with life.
Well, and I also think like so much of like we have a job that's all about performance, right?
Right.
And we are almost gifted the opportunities every day to step outside our comfort zone. You know?
Right.
I look at every game, every training as like, wow, we get to now push ourselves and see what our limits are and how we can move past those limits.
Right.
Which I don't think everybody has that blessing in a lot of ways, which I think is cool for something that we naturally view as like scary or fearful is actually like amazing, you know, to see every day, where am I at and where can I grow? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So what would you say, you know, adversity is a real thing in life and professional sport and outside life. What do you think is one of the biggest times that you faced adversity within your career, and how did you grow from that?
Yeah, good question. I think naturally my mind goes to injuries, because injuries are one of those things that, like, as athletes, all we want to do is play and be healthy, right? So for me, speaking of CTE, I had a concussion in 2015 that kept me out for a long time. And it was very difficult because it's not like, oh, here's my leg, it's swollen, like we know how to rehab and fix it, right? When it's a traumatic brain injury, it's definitely a lot harder to understand, okay, well, what are the symptoms, what's causing it, and how do we move forward from there? So that was something that I had to kind of learn how to deal with, how to move past and really come to grips with, okay, there's things that I need to do to prepare my mind and my body to play. And it's more mental than it is physical, but it's scary, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then other adversity, man, I think there's the natural progression of your career where you, like, when you're young, everything's so exciting and you hit this stride and it's like, you know, you almost can't do anything wrong, right?
Exactly.
And then plateaus happen. And it's like working through the plateaus and understanding that, like, every year players are getting better. And how are you evolving as well? So, like, never resting on the laurels of a prior season or past success is something you don't always view as adversity, but you have to, like, work against it to try to continue to level up in my mind, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson that you're saying, because I think people can relate that to life. You know, not get too caught up on the lows, never getting too high on the highs. You know?
Absolutely.
Just staying straight through it.
And stagnation is a real problem, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's a real thing for sure. Definitely agree. Let's see, kind of a fun question. If you had $1 million, what would you do with the money?
$1 million. Well, I would think, so something that's near and dear to my wife and I is we tithe to our church. So the first 10% that comes in, we give to the church. Ultimately, just in our minds, like, God has blessed us with gifts and talents, and we owe him that first, right? So I think if you give back to the blessings that have been given to you, he pays you back 100 times over. So that would be the first thing I would do. Now with one kid and another one coming, man, like, college is only getting more expensive. This is like the least sexy answer you're ever gonna hear, but taking care of just things that, like, down the road are really gonna pay major dividends, whether that's investing the money or putting them in a situation where they can pay for school. And then ultimately probably buy some nice Venci clothes or some other garb for myself. Because when it's all said and done, we like to look good, you know? It's just the reality. So I've had my eye on a couple things that I'll have to just maybe, if I had the $1 million, think about.
Okay. You know, everybody grows up looking up to somebody or something. What do you think, or who do you think is one of the most influential people in your life, either to this day or as you were growing up?
Man, it sounds cliche, but my parents, like, I don't think I've ever told them I've looked up to them, but like, they've been so impactful in my life that I almost forget about it, right? Like, it's just so natural with how they raised my brother, sister, and I, and, like, the way you treat people, the way you look people in the eye, the way you try to serve and help others. Like, I don't know how else to put it other than they've, like, shaped me into the man that I am now. And I just think they are two people that I admire so greatly. And every single day I'm like I said, I'm a fish and I don't even know that they're the water, right? Like, they just, they molded me into who I am. And without them, I don't know where I'd be.
I think I definitely agree with that. being with my mom, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
Raising me as a single mom. She's the biggest motivator that I look up to for sure. You know, she was grinding in school, working, and having me laying there in the couch while she's studying with other people. Crazy story that I kind of didn't really realize till I got older, till like now I'm 24, I'm recognizing what she actually went through.
Yeah.
And obviously with statistics and stuff, they say a lot of kids don't make it. So
I mean, it's an amazing story.
Yeah,
I think it's like commonly you don't see many kids make it out, and not only just make it out, but become very successful.
Right.
And even more so, like elite athletes, right? That's something where you owe her a lot. Of course, she knows that, but I think it's pretty amazing. Like we take for granted our parents, even though they've overcome obstacles that like now being a parent, bro, it's crazy to see how hard it is, and to hear about people doing it as a single parent. I can't imagine.
Right. Okay. Word on the locker is that you have a good singing voice.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you can get us a little 5-10 second mojo here of your favorite song or something.
Well, I'll do a little background first. So we grew up like not really singing in church or anything like that, but my family has just always been like singers. My grandmother's a music teacher. My sister's a music teacher now. So we've just been around singing like our whole lives.
That's cool. That's cool.
And I've just enjoyed it. And for me, like favorite song, I don't even know, but the one, I usually just sing what comes into my head. So I've been listening to this song recently called A Little Honey by Nathaniel Rateliff in the Night Sweats. And it goes, come on now, baby, you speak so soft and low. I need some honey. You think that I don't know. That's it.
Wow.
That's all I'm gonna do.
Everybody, you hear it. Snaps.
Yep.
Multi-talented guy here.
Sometimes. It doesn't work on my wife anymore. There's no charm there.
No charm?
It's gone. It doesn't work at all.
All right, last two questions.
Okay, throw it at me.
First one is, what is one of your favorite motivational quotes?
Okay. Tough.
Yeah.
Something that I learned recently that I think is just so apt for like where we are as young men. And like this notion of integrity is something that Jesus said, like, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So when you agree and you commit to doing something, do it, right?
Commit to it 100%.
100%. And you follow through on those commitments. And if you don't, ask for forgiveness and then try to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And that's like one of those things that I think the world could just use a little bit more of. Not backing out on things, not saying, oh, I'm busy, oh, whatever. Like, don't make excuses. Just commit to something and do it.
Yeah.
So that one is something I keep in my mind almost every single day.
Right. Okay, I like that a lot for sure. And the last one is, what would you say to people who are in the pursuit of turning their dreams into reality?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is, like, don't sell yourself short. Whatever you think you're shooting for, and whatever that dream is, what could be even bigger? Like, what if right now this is the dullest your life will ever be?
Right.
Like, you're only at base camp for Everest. I think it's really apt for us as athletes because we think like, oh, wait, we're like the height of our powers. Like life could never get any better than it is right now, right?
Yeah.
But what if right now this is the low point of where our life will be?
Right.
And I think when you start to look at life with that, I don't want to say glass half full approach, but that open-mindedness of possibility, hope just naturally seeps in, and you start to see things unravel and connections that are made in your life that you never even thought were possible.
Right.
So I would say, whatever your dream is, blow it out of the water with something that would make, if you said it to someone else, they would feel uncomfortable hearing that.
Right.
Like,
okay.
I want to now have let's say a net worth of $100 million, you know?
Yeah.
Like, most people would hear that and be like, whoa, dude, like, calm down, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, who's to say that it's not possible?
Right.
Who's to say that that's even too small?
Yeah.
And I think we oftentimes underestimate our own capabilities and the capabilities of people around us.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Okay. Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I think one big thing is that people can learn from is having a good perspective on life and whatever it is, and always seeing the bigger picture, no matter what point of life you're at
100%.
or what you're trying to reach. I think always changing that perspective so that you learn from your failures and grow from your, you know, your successes and stuff like that, then that's the perspective you want to have always. And I find myself always questioning, if I'm looking at something one way, how can I look at it a different way to kind of shift my mindset or turn it into even more of a positive thing, or turn into more motivation.
Perspective is really interesting, because we're walking down a street on a beautiful day, but you could have had something that happened earlier today where you don't think this is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Right? But I think it's beautiful. And like, the perspective of things changes how we react to them. And understanding that shift can take what you perceive as a failure as something as just, this is a great step in me getting better at what I want to become.
Right.
And I think that's especially for people that are pursuing their goals and their dreams, it's really easy to get bogged down, but it's really hard. But the most successful, like, turn that perspective on its head and are always finding the ways to move forward.
Right, exactly. All right, well, I think that's all the questions I have.
Dope.
We just want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was awesome, bro.
My guy.
I hope everybody can learn from this and get some motivational stuff from this. We're always looking to inspire people and trying to touch everybody's lives.